Hi, I'm Steve Gillmor, and I'm the only person that I know who doesn't have a 5S. I am very unhappy. But there are others who are very happy, and some of them I can see on the monitor. Let's start with Danny Sullivan. Do you have one?
No, I ordered one last night.
How did you order it last night?
I went online. It's this web. It's a series of tubes.
You can order them? I thought you couldn't. You had to go to the store.
No, you could order them online. You just couldn't pre-order them. Part of Apple's master strategy to make us all feel like we've all got to have the IS, which I can come back to whenever you're ready. But no, you couldn't pre-order them, but you could order them,
all right.
And it should arrive, they say, on Tuesday.
Okay, so now I'm really pissed off.
Well, you could have ordered it last night.
Thanks.
You don't need to be pissed off, Steve. It's all worked out in Apple's favor, and that's the important thing here.
That is true.
You desire having an iPhone 5S, despite the fact that it's gold and has a fingerprint sensor.
I don't want to hear this logic.
You need to have it. You want to have it. You must have it. You need it, but you cannot get it. I think they were also genius, too, in that they didn't apparently ship that many to people who wanted to go to them in the retail stores. Like, you couldn't go to AT&T and hope that you'd get one. So, if you really, really wanted to have one of those particular phones that are in short supply, you had to go to the Apple Store, which helps the Apple Store lines be longer for phones that aren't that much different than the ones we had last year, except for the fingerprint sensor thing.
Okay.
So.
Let's go.
But yeah, I ordered one too.
Speaking of lines,
look at that.
That's Robert Scoble in New York, right, Robert? He's muted. Okay. So now,
what's he doing in New York when?
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm at the New York Apple Store on Fifth Avenue, and you can see the crowds continue to pour in to look for iPhones. They said there might be still a few iPhone 5Ss left in stock here. We were here at 5 in the morning, and they very quickly sold out of the gold ones. They only had 8 of the gold for a store of this kind of quantity, where there was at least 3,000 people in line. Yeah. They quickly ran out of the white ones. When I got to the front of the line at about 10 a.m., they only had black ones.
All right, well, there's a line here of people who haven't been introduced on the show. So let me get to, also in New York is John Borthwick. Welcome, John.
Hey, Steve. So I'll give you my iPhone story, my 5S story. So we're downtown, and there's been a line around the block on the 14th Street store today. We managed to get hold of a few. There were only black ones available.
So okay, well, we'll come back to what is
black?
The preferred
just
site.
Black?
Just black, Danny.
How can you live with yourself? How can you be a cutting-edge incubator with just black iPhone? What?
Just get a little case for it.
Just go get a Windows
gold
phone.
case.
Oh, God.
Okay, that's John Taschek. Welcome, John.
I don't have one either, but I'm kind of happy now that I didn't have to go through that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I remain unhappy. Scoble, what color is your iPhone S, 5S?
Black with a black case. So they had cases still when I got to the line. You can see most people are walking out without bags. There's a few bags. So
if you go online, you can get them in October, it says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm screwed.
October?
October's only 2 weeks away.
It's like a week away. Gotta have it now.
God.
I'm excited because I didn't line up.
You know that little knob there? Turn down the medication, Danny, just a little.
Tim Cook's in Palo Alto right now at the store.
And he's on Twitter.
Yeah, we should just break up the gang and go down there.
We should do that, except they're so far away from me.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody ever comes down here to do anything. Oh, no.
Just Hollywood stuff.
Oh.
Okay, so John Borthwick.
Yeah.
Why do you have an iPhone 5S?
So I think that's.
It's because of your special relationship with Apple, right?
So a couple of things here. So I think the 5S. I mean, you guys talked about it a little bit on last week's show. I think that the 5S is a fairly significant upgrade of the device. And so I think that if you look at the benchmark tests that came out this week, I mean, the processor speed, which I initially thought was, it's remarkable how fast this thing is. It's basically a desktop computer that you've got in your hand. I think that the motion, the M6 chip, which is, expands all the capabilities around motion, around context, all the stuff that you guys have talked about extensively on the show. There's going to be a lot of stuff that will come out of that. And I think that the fingerprint, turns it into, you can see it, Danny, as a sort of nice, glittering new thing, but it does fundamentally turn it into a different device if it becomes a secure payments token or device. So I think the 5S is a big deal. I think the bigger deal here is the 5C. I think the 5C has the potential, it's not radical, but it does push down Apple's ASP, the average selling price. And you've got to think about it. I mean, here in the U.S., we are both spoiled and distorted, in our market. But you've got to think about the fact that in other markets around the world, they're not carrier subsidized. And so an Apple product an iPhone product has traditionally been in the $600 range, without the subsidies. Whereas you can get a good Android phone in $250, or just a good general smartphone around $150 US, without the subsidies. So those are big differences in terms of cost. And I think that the 5C has the potential to significantly expand the base of people who use it as the entry device into the Apple ecosystem. So I think the 5S is what's going to get Danny all hot and heavy, and but I think the 5C is where we're really going to see in 6 months' time. That's where the big change will be. So it's my 2 cents.
Well, I wonder, these lines... what? Oh, that's a 5C?
That's a 5C. There you go, Steve. You could get a blue one.
I don't want 5C. I have
pretty.
zero interest in the 5C. This one's better than the 5C. The one I already have.
No, it's not. No, it's not. If you look at the benchmark test, the 5C is actually, it's small increments, but it is faster than the 5.
Is that what we're back to? Benchmark tests like PC Magazine? Is that what matters?
John, you got to understand, when I want to do Twitter, I need it to be...
You could go with the Danny Sullivan route and say, data doesn't matter, it's just an accessory, it's all about fashion, I want it. Or you can go sort of, the benchmark way and say, let's actually figure out the speed of this thing and figure out what it's going to do. John, I think the benchmark tests, speed does matter. I loaded up iOS 7, which, by the way, when I got iOS 7, I looked at my phone and I said, I got a new phone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It gave me a fresh phone. And I think iOS 7, I found it a bit bright, like a bit white. But it's not flat. It's distinctly two-dimensional. It's full of these really, many of them beautiful, some of them gratuitous, but these very good sort of transitions between gestures. And so it really feels like 2 distinct layers, like it's two-dimensional in my mind. And most importantly is that when I played around with iOS 7 just a little bit before I got it on my own phone, it made me think that maybe the Apple devices are going to become less distinguishable from Android devices. And I think iOS 7 is a really good OS. So I think you've got with the 5C, I think you've got a really good phone in your hand, Steve. It's a better phone. And it's blue, Steve.
But no one's going to want no one in this group anyway is going to want the 5C if there's a 5S that's available.
Exactly.
I know, John. Yes, I know.
You do know, but you're saying otherwise. In other words,
I am saying that the 5C is going to be, I think that when you look back in 6 months and say what really has changed this new lineup of phones, which is what we've got now in market for Apple on the phone side for the next 12 months. 6 to 12 months is I think the 5C is going to be the one that has the potential to change Apple's position in the market, not the 5S.
Oh, to grow the market share because they can sell more of them on volume?
Yeah, to grow the market share, just to expand the base of people who are in the Apple ecosystem, and particularly outside of the U.S. I mean, it is, the fact that
It's their Android killer.
the fact that they're going day and date now, right? That this is going for sale in China at the same time is a big deal.
That's what the C stands for, I think.
Big deal.
I thought it stood for cheap.
China. Is it 64-bit?
No, I don't believe the C is.
So, Danny, which one did you get?
Oh, I got the S.
And but what?
I got
color?
the S too.
Oh, I got
It
the
appears
S
to be
with
only
the,
about
with the
color.
gold. Hopefully it'll
Oh,
come.
you did get the gold.
Yeah, I don't really care because it's all going in an OtterBox case anyway. So, but because the gold was the whole big new thing, I kind of like to have it for historical reasons, right? Although I never bought into getting the white ones. I always went for black myself before.
And John, did we cover this? What color are you getting?
What color am I getting? I'd get the gold. I didn't get. Oh, you're talking about Borthwick.
Yeah.
I would get the gold. I don't know what he got. He got black.
I got a black. I got a black. I haven't opened it up yet, but I got a black. I wanted actually the silver, but Danny, I love the fact that you give everybody grief for treating these things as fashion items, and yet you want the iconic fashion item.
But I only wanted to get it because at some point, 5 years from now, I'll be like, oh yeah, and then the gold was the big deal. That's the only
Like
reason.
avocado refrigerators.
It literally makes no difference to me. If I had walked into the store and they said we don't have the gold, I'd be like, whatever. That's the way I've been before with the black or the white. I've usually gone for black just because it's a little less low profile.
Yeah,
but they all go into a case. It's going to be in a blue case.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't
It's in a
case
gold
mine.
case.
I mean, I think that would you put a beautiful piece of furniture in a case? So I don't like casing them, but the black 5, which is what I have now. It's amazing me. It's amazed me just how poorly. There's a lot of scratches on it, and it doesn't feel as well finished, particularly on the edges, as the 4.
Yeah.
And so I haven't looked closely, and I haven't worn or used the 5S, but I hope that they've done a better job of that, because this one is worn pretty badly, right? And I actually prefer the feel of my Nexus. I'm sorry, not Nexus, the Moto X.
Oh yeah, the Moto X feels nice. Although it keeps slipping out of my hand.
I love it. Yeah. So.
I'm not sure what's happening. All I know is
I think
don't
he was
have
running all
my-
this on the iPhone and it just crashed.
No, I think everything's fine. It's just my mood that's damaged.
He looks okay.
That makes sense.
Can we accept that?
Yeah.
Danny, just a technical question. Are you getting a streaking across your monitor?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's the sunspots.
So Steve, can you hear me? This is Robert.
I can hear you, but your picture is damaged.
All right, I don't know what to do because I'm trying to use their Wi-Fi here, and it's just an overloaded store. So let's see if I can change cameras maybe.
All right, well, call us back then. Oh, that's better.
All right, so I'm just going to leave it on the back camera.
Okay, so give us your impressions while you still have battery.
Why do I still have battery? Because I have a external battery that I plugged in.
No, but give us your impressions while you still have battery power.
Oh, I have plenty of battery power. That's not going to be a problem today. The phone is faster, noticeably so. The coolest thing is the fingerprint scanner. It seems not important until you actually try it. And now I'm already addicted to the fingerprint scanner. I miss it when I go and use my Moto X or my Nokia 1090. The camera is slightly better. I'm going to do a lot of photo tests. I'm going to a wedding tomorrow, and I've been shooting on Nokia and the Moto X and a Samsung phone and the iPhone 5S. but it's not dramatically better. The Nokia seems dramatically better than the iPhone. The motion sensor is interesting, but I haven't yet gotten any apps that I know use it. Hopefully John Borthwick has found a couple, but so far I haven't. Here at the Apple Store, you can see just how many people are here and how active this store is, and shows you the power of the Apple brand. There is nothing else like this in retail on the planet.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say something, Roberts. It's not technology, it's retail, right? I mean, that store is in on Fifth Avenue, has the highest retail sales per square foot of any store in the world.
Yep.
It's remarkable, and it's open 24 hours, and it's the box that Steve Jobs put on top that he changed the glass on twice is a work of art, and it's a phenomenon that hasn't abated, right? And so I think that it's Samsung and HTC, who seem to be a distant follower at this point, and Motorola, who seem to have pushed a good product in market. They've got a long way to go till they can get to this kind of status with consumers.
So all the predictions of Apple, fading, do we agree that that's just not true? Danny?
I'm trying to remember the last shares that we saw, because I thought Samsung was actually a little bit more on top, but that might have been the Android shares. I don't think Apple disappears. I think they're geniuses with their marketing. The fingerprint scanner, for example, I'm mocking it, and at the same time, until I have it, I may be just like with Robert and go, wow, this is really, really great. That's sort of the way the Retina screen was. When they came out with the Retina, when you hadn't seen it, you'd be like, oh, better screen. And then you look at it and you go, wow, that's remarkably good. But it's also interesting that, I have a Samsung S4, right? That screen is as good as the iPhone screen now. And it's larger screen. And I really like the larger screen. So, I think they've done a smart move in coming out with some incremental things that will get everybody to still like them until they come out with what I think they're really going to need, which is the larger screen phones. Because I think the larger screen phones are actually attractive to a lot of people. The iPhones look really small. And when you can get a bigger screen in virtually the same space and it's not that uncomfortable to use, I found that. It's been funny. I've been watching my wife, and she'd look at the S4 and she's like, yeah. And then she's going back to her iPhone 5 and looking at the S4. And it's also interesting because every time we've had a new iPhone come out, it's always been, all right, I need that one upgraded, I need that one upgraded. This is the first time she's not like, yeah, I need to get the upgrade. I'll hang in there. So, I don't think they're fading away, but, and I don't want to take away from the changes that they brought in there, especially when I haven't used the phone, but, to me it feels like this is a lot more of like holding action and trying to do things as best as we can to kind of tide us over for sort of a really generational leap that will probably come along with the iPhone 6 or whatever number we're supposed to be at.
You don't think it's that the thumb thing is generational? I do.
I haven't used it. The people who have say that they don't like to go back to the old system, but then again, you have people who don't use lock screens. So if you're not even using a lock screen, it's not so dramatic. And it's kind of like with the Retina display. I have a Retina Mac and I have a Retina iPad, and when I have to go to one of the other devices that are not Retina, I definitely notice it. But I don't go, oh my God, I can't even use this thing, I'm going to throw it away. And if I was price sensitive, that's a whole other issue. And the price sensitivity thing comes to me. I kind of want to do, and I may still write it, this sort of ode to the Nexus 4 that you can't buy anymore. But that was a $300 phone. Not $300 on contract and it's more affordable. a $300 phone. And I remember when that came out, my niece, who was like 21, and a friend of mine whose daughter was 21, they wanted that phone. They got that phone, and they didn't want the contract. They didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. It really made no difference to them whether or not they had an iPhone or Android. Just didn't want to pay a lot for owning a phone. And I kind of wonder, it was interesting, they just yesterday announced the Moto X, Republic Wireless or whatever, I'd never heard of, but they, resell through Sprint, are going to sell that at like 300. And that's compelling. Those are good phones as well. If you're not tied into the Apple ecosystem and you're looking for a good phone and you don't want to be on a contract, those are selling points also. So to come back to what you said, no, I didn't think that it was all over for Apple. I think that they have a strong audience and people who want demands of their phones, and they're geniuses in how they pack things up. Plus, they make really good phones. Let's not question it. But, I don't think that suddenly this changes everything, and now we have the iPhone S with the fingerprint scanner, or we have the colorful ones, and that's it. The challenge from Android is over. I think it's just as tough as it's been before.
Yeah.
You agree, John?
I agree. I mean, I think that the biggest story here is that the market for smartphones is still expanding. It's now a very competitive market. I think that this doesn't, neither the 5C nor the 5S are going to radically change the sort of dimensions of that market. I think that Apple need to, there's quite a few flanks that they have opened. I mean, I think that, I'm really disappointed there's nothing on the TV. I'm hoping that something happens in October on the TV. I think that I think that they've got to do something, as Robert said in the last show. They've got to do something early next year in the form of a watch or something, and they need to shore up the ecosystem, right? And make so that when you buy one of these devices, they're not standalone devices. You're buying into the Apple ecosystem. I think that Apple fundamentally is still not a data company, so I see that huge flank that is exposed. So I think there's a lot of work to be done here, but I think this is another demonstration of just a huge market power, and the fact that they can build very good hardware.
John Taschek.
So I don't know if you can hear me, Steve, because
Yeah.
I'm back on LTE and it's a very congested neighborhood. I sort of, it's funny hearing people who don't have this phone and don't see the excitement in the lines, and don't see the length of the lines comparatively to other times. The brand is clearly not going away. I mean, I've never seen a retail store like this, I'm sorry, where it's just wall-to-wall people hours after they've run out of most of the iPhones. The phone itself, once you get your fingerprint, once you get your finger on this.
I think we lost you, Robert.
I don't know if Robert can hear me, but until he comes back, I mean, there's no question people of Apple, people are going to be in demand for this phone. But this year compared to last year, you couldn't pre-order the iPhone at 5S. So if you wanted it, and you're one of those people who really wanted it, you had like double the issues of last year where you'd be like, I want to go out to the store. I want to have it that day. The people who are really like that could have ordered the phone last year and had it arrive that day. That wasn't a possibility. So if you were that kind of loyalist, a fanatic or whatever, you had even more incentive to get out to those Apple stores this year. There was just no other way you were going to do it. In addition...
Danny, I wonder how much of that was because of the fact that you released it simultaneously in multiple geographies. And how they thought about the 5C versus the 5S and just supply of the technology underneath the because it's not technically a fingerprint scanner, but right. the technology in there, maybe there was limitations in the supply of that, or Or was it a marketing stunt?
It could be, and I don't know. I tend to think it's probably a combination of two things. I think that they probably had a limited supply, but I do also think that there was definitely marketing stuff going on with this. Because why couldn't you have done the pre-order? Why a week ago could I have not ordered an iPhone 5S when I could have done the 5C, right? And suddenly I have to wait the other week for it to happen. And then it's interesting how yesterday or the day before, suddenly all the stories start appearing on how you can't get the 5S at any of the associated stores. You're not going to necessarily get it at Best Buy or Verizon or whatever. So then there's even more. And every year, because I have done the lines, I'm always like, gosh, should I go to AT&T shop or should I go to the Apple store? And if I had lined up this year, there's no way I would have taken the chance. If you're going to go line up, you're going to go to the place that you're pretty sure you're going to get the phone that you wanted. So maybe if it was in big demand, you still would have had the record-breaking, lines and all that stuff that's kind of going with it or whatever. But, I feel like they really were very, very careful in terms of how they figured they were going to do this release and market it, so you still had that maximum impact. That just feels really obvious. Now, if they hadn't done all that, just let everybody have the phones, done all the pre-order, whatever, we still would have had the lines.
Yeah, the other thing,
I think we still would have had the lines, right?
Steve, the other thing is that from just a pure marketing standpoint, it was, I think this is the first time there's been a major Apple release that I can ever remember where everything was leaked before. And it was accurate.
Yeah.
Which means it's got to have come from the company.
Yeah, I definitely think they've changed their. There's a lot less of the fear factor of going against what Steve Jobs wants going on these days.
Right, but all the way, Steve, all the way down to the gold, right? And I think it was Apple saying, look, we know that there's on the surface these feel like incremental improvements. There's if the fingerprint is fundamentally a game changer for how people use this device, for how they authenticate into the device, the possibility that it could accrue for payments, for other things, then we'll look back on this and that the fingerprint will be like as fundamental as adding a camera to the first the first iPhone came with camera, right? So adding a camera, right? And so it'll become like one of those fundamental things that you just expect on a device.
I also think the releasing the iOS 7 upgrade has taken a lot of the pain away from not having the phone immediately.
Right.
I know that's why I didn't, completely tear what's left of my hair out.
Right, and data I saw this morning says that penetration's at like 42%, right, of iOS 7.
Yeah, I find it to be, a spectacular release in a number of ways.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm already getting frustrated about the lack of new features in it since I've only had it about 24 hours.
Right.
John Taschek, you want to weigh in here?
I kind of agree with what everyone was saying. There's a lot of chatter on the front feed about the. Sorry, this echo is killing me. But the demand that Apple has, and it's probably a controlled demand and a controlled flow into the stores, and it makes people want it more, which is that's Apple. That's Apple's methodology, I think. And it's great. I'm sure it's a great phone. It's probably the best phone. It's definitely the best Apple phone out there, and Apple phone is one of the top phones. So it's not a phone anymore. It's a computer, and it's going to be a dashboard into multiple things. And that M7 coprocessor, the multimedia processor that's on there, is going to be a big differentiator. And I think this is just the first of many things that come out. That said, if you just walk around and if you see somebody with an iPhone 5S, they most likely won't even know that you have an iPhone 5S. unless you ask them. So you have to start a conversation because you can't really tell, as far as I see, that it's any much differentiated from anything else that's out there. So a lot of people are going in there. They're buying something, and they're wasting a day or whatever at the stores to do it, and they're coming back with something that they can't even really show off unless they put it down in front of somebody.
Yeah. I think that's one reason why they did that funky case, right? For the 5C with the dots.
Right.
Because I think that they wanted something which was publicly visible, right? I mean, obviously they were copying our game dots that we developed here. But other than that, I think they wanted something which you could see in this, from a distance and say, hey, that's one of those new things I wanted. Same thing with the color case, right? Can we talk, Steve, a little bit about the software side? Because we put in here at BetaWorks, we put in a lot of time into pushing out some new iOS 7 apps, and there's a lot of new apps out there, and I think there's some things that are starting to do some really interesting new things.
Yes, please.
So I mean, I think that on the app side, the things which we pushed out, we did a release of the first release of Instapaper since Marco gave us the keys to that kingdom, and so that was interesting and difficult for a whole series of reasons related to working on something that was such sort of an iconic app that he had developed, but that's gotten a good reception. I'm super happy with that. We did a release of Dig. And both Dig and Instapaper have been nicely featured by Apple, so they seem to be doing well. Our game Dots, we had pushed out a new release of that, which was already pretty flat, and so that seems to fit well in the ecosystem. There's a new company that we seeded a while back called Memoir, which is starting to do some interesting contextual stuff. And they, released 48 hours ago with iOS 7, and they're doing very well. And they've gotten a lot of promotion from Apple and quite a bit of press. What they're doing is that they are taking the images on your phone and matching those with small social circles, and so they can sort of become your collective memory for what you have on your phone and with people you care about. So, they tell you, whether you took photos in this particular place a couple of years ago with this particular person. And so they're not there all the way, but the idea is that you'll be able to walk into my office and check out Memoir, and it will say, hey, you were in my office 2 years ago and you took this particular photo that included both of us, right? So they're trying to add in geolocation and social around images. And so they seem to be doing some interesting stuff, which I think begins to scratch on. I mean, Robert asked about the new chip, and I don't think I haven't seen anyone who's doing anything with it yet. It would have been kind of remarkable if there was, because it would have just been a guess, because I think that we didn't know about this, so people haven't started building to that yet, but I think we're going to see a lot of interesting contextual services that is going to start to appear because of all of the motion, location, directional stuff you can now do with the phone.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. Hopefully you can.
Yeah, there you go.
Great. Yesterday I spent some time with Dave Matthews, who runs New Air, and it's AER, and he's doing all sorts of stuff to study all the radio signals that are being seen by your iPhone. And he's building a series of apps, and Andy Grignon is building a series of apps, or a tool to help build apps. So there's a lot of stuff coming. I think it's going to come toward the end of the year, after developers have had a couple months with the new low energy Bluetooth capabilities in this phone, the iBeacon, and the new sensor for seeing motion. et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this Skype is shaking a little bit, but the future of Skype could use the sensor to steady cam my picture a bit, and on and on. I missed a bit about what Danny was talking about before John came on and talked about apps, but I think some of the naysaying, and I've been a naysayer, is misplaced. This phone stands up to a Moto X pretty damn well. The Moto X has some features that people in line were impressed with. In fact, even the Apple employee, when I came up and I started talking to my phone, he was like, "Wow, that is cool," So, but cool isn't enough to break through the noise and get normal Apple users to care about anything else. I'm going to be doing some photo tests with the Nokia 1020, which has a better camera than either the Motorola X or this new iPhone. And most people in line just didn't care. They said, well, that's nice. We know it's a better camera, but that's not why we buy an iPhone. So I think this is a marketing thing rather than an innovation thing for most people in line.
I don't know.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I mean, something that's different coming into the fall of 2013 is that all of us who are building things in this space are building, we're rapidly following or we're launching Android at the same time as iPhone, right? And that is, so the apps are now getting there on Android. That memoir app I was talking about a few minutes ago, I was interested to see that the Apple guys, tweeted out a little promotion for it yesterday, saying what a great app it was, but they also said available only on iOS, because it's available only on iOS today. And so, I think that we're seeing, that, I mean, a year ago, and when we talked about Windows, everybody on this call has been hammering, about the fact that the apps aren't there. The apps are now getting there on Android, which is different.
Yeah. We can see that when you go to a ball game and at the Mets Stadium they say Android, iPhone, Android, iPhone. Most people know that both of those ecosystems are fairly safe. They have their reasons for going one way or the other. I mean, Chris Voss and I spent a lot of time, and he's an Android fan, and he likes the flexibility, he likes the customization, he likes the bigger screen that's on the new Note 3, and I don't care about the bigger screen. I have a Moto X that's almost the same as this iPhone 5 I'm talking into, this 5S that I'm talking to. I don't know, there's more choice today for a mobile consumer than there was 5 years ago, but a lot of the people in line have been Apple fans for a while and they don't see any reason to move. And a lot of people had older 4S's or 4s or 5s that had broken screens, and they've been holding on to them for a couple months, waiting for this new phone to upgrade. And so it'll be interesting to see what the business impact of this release is on Apple. The fact that they didn't release it a week beforehand, and let people order it online and forced the hardcore fan to come to the store and buy it, and avoid the frustration that Steve Gillmor is feeling right now for not having a phone.
I'm feeling better now,
Apple
actually.
knew that they're in it. Yeah, it's not one of those releases that makes you go, oh my God, this is mind-blowing. And I think that's where Danny's going with this. The fingerprint sensor's nicer, absolutely. The camera's better, the speed of it is definitely faster. But other than that, it's not like the the camera quality jumps that we saw from the 3 to the 4, or the screen quality differences that we saw from the 4 to the 5. This is a more subtle upgrade, and the fact that they had lines like they did just shows that there's a lot of love for the Apple brand. Now, does it hurt the Apple brand long term if they don't have a mind-blowing release? I'd argue it does eventually, but not in this release cycle. You know.
I just want to do a check here. Danny, are you exercising while you're on the show?
Only when you can't see me.
What is he exercising?
I've got this walking treadmill desk.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Anytime you've shipped it over to me, I've been putting it on pause. See, you caught me off guard there.
Okay, and John Taschek, what's your? Are you exercising there?
My eyebrows. No. Why did you ask?
Well, just trying to be fair.
No. Okay.
So I think John Borthwick sort of touched on what I think about the import of this release, which is it's really about the software. It's not about the hardware. The new
What?
People didn't stand in line to get a new app, man. They
Yeah,
stood
but
in line to get a new phone. They stood in line to get a faster.
I'm not
phone,
disputing that. They're going to
a
do
better
very
camera.
well. They're going to
Yeah.
do very well selling these iPhone S's. I know I'm going to get one. China's going to get the C, and we're all. I mean, Apple's going to do very well here. But what I don't think Android has a real shot at catching up with is this integration of hardware and software, and particularly every time you invest in it. I mean, they push these software upgrades out for free, and some of the capabilities of iOS 7 are really going to have an impact. Like, for example, there's no more having to consciously upgrade all of the apps. This will all be basically on auto upgrade.
Which Android does, if you want.
Yeah, Android's done it from the beginning, but what I'm saying is that when Apple, the dominant Apple ecosystem, which is just goes across so many of these different kinds of markets, and John Borthwick talks about the disappointment about seeing a TV product. I think we already are seeing a TV product, which is the software landscape that stitches together all of these devices. That is not something that I'm going to let go.
That's a great point, by the way. That's a great point, because the new speed of the iPhone and the new iOS 7 lets you do things like zooming a video while you're playing it and while you're recording it. That's the camera is noticeably better because of these software features. My Moto X, by the way, when you see the pictures from the Moto X compared to the iPhone, the Moto X is muted. The colors just aren't as good, and that's partly because of what Apple's doing in software. And there's lots of feel around it. It's just funny, talking about the things that Android had for a long time. The problem is a lot of those features aren't anything that's going to make a fanboy switch. And same thing on the Android side, right? I have a more open app loader, and I have apps that do things with the phone dialer, but no Apple fan's going to go to Android because of that. It's not important to. It's not a big enough deal to get you to go, oh my God, I have to get rid of my phone and spend $1,000 and buy new apps and learn a new OS and learn a new usage system. But things like the fingerprint scanner, I tell you, I feel a lot safer using my iPhone right now than I do with my Moto. And it's subtle. It's subtle, but it feeds into that ecosystem. Now, what I'm surprised by Tim Cook is that he doesn't understand what he has, or he hasn't yet started selling it in a way that gets me excited. The fingerprint scanner is really the beginnings of a personal cloud. And when you are starting to put dozens or hundreds of sensors around you and on you, and little Wi-Fi, low energy Bluetooth radios, and all sorts of stuff that you're going to walk by and do things with, you want to make sure your phone, the hub of your personal cloud remains for you only. And the fingerprint scanner really does that in a huge way. And Tim really doesn't understand how to explain why that's so important. And I'm not that good at it either. If I was, I'd be on stage, and have a real job, right?
I don't know. I think that's overstated. I don't really care about how the delta between Steve Jobs and Tim Cook in terms of salesmanship. I think it's gone so far beyond that in terms of this. I mean, to me, the Apple environment and the Android environment, they feel like the Democrats and the Republicans. It's one party, but it appears to be two parties. In reality, I think they just push each other forward. As Borthwick, as you said, the fact that there's almost parity just because apps come out first on iOS. That's a couple of weeks or a couple months at the most delta between those two. But it's essentially they drive each other forward.
Right.
Yeah, the ecosystem is ahead on iOS, and I think John will agree with that. It's a subtle thing. By the way, again, we are not talking about Microsoft or RIM or BlackBerry, I'm sorry, or anything else. These two ecosystems fighting and pushing ahead, and one will push ahead in one area and one will push ahead in another area. But Apple has, I don't look at Apple as an innovation company. I don't think anybody in line really cares. I think they care about having good service on the retail store and having a
Again, I don't agree with you.
Complete.
I don't agree with you that there's no innovation.
I stay in line with a lot of people.
The innovation.
A lot of people.
I believe you that you think what you think. I just don't agree with you. The innovation that's in iOS 7, I think, is extraordinary. I mean, there are so many things that within a couple of hours of starting to use it that I'm immediately starting to get frustrated about the fact that I can't switch between two multitasking apps back and forth. There's no gesture that I can use to do that yet. Now, there probably is going to be one embedded, but some of the features that have been in iOS for a while, like the John's favorite feature, which is the one where somebody calls you and all of a sudden you get a text message that says, "What's up?" Sounds like it's, in iOS 7 that thing is surfaced so that, the picture of the person that's calling you comes up and it's right there. You just, you select the text message and you're done. I mean, it's fantastic.
That's in the Google thing.
Exactly. They've
got it now.
Yeah, I think that kind of I just everything that I see happening on the iPhone with the new operating system suggests to me that we are moving very, very rapidly toward a software, sort of golden age, where this stuff. I mean, it's taken a while to get over the hump from the laptop to the mobile devices, but now I think this is going to really accelerate. I want to hear what Danny Sullivan's opinion is before we come back to you, Robert.
Okay.
Danny, what do you think about this moment in terms of software design? Do you think that we're seeing an acceleration, or am I just smoking my own Kool-Aid?
Well, I think it's getting more refined, and I think that we just had some more stats and more people, or we're very close to more people getting onto the internet through mobile devices than through their laptops. But I think there's a really big distinction between your phone and your tablet. And I think a lot of desktop activity you can do on a tablet fairly in a similar manner, but the phone screen sizes still make it difficult to do a lot of things and still feel like you're not going to bring all that synergy together. I mean, there's the idea that, with the iPhone 5S that, wow, it's 64-bit and we got all this processing power, more processing power than, I think Gruber was like, more processing power than my laptop from 2008. And it's like, well, you know what? I can pull a laptop from 2008 and I can dust it off, and I can go onto the internet and do things pretty much about the same way as I did before. It doesn't. A lot of the activities are not that different, or they don't necessarily need that much horsepower. I mean, it makes it faster and all that stuff comes together. But I think the bigger issue really comes into play about the way that we can interact with it and the way the gestures. And on the smaller devices, we just have to do things differently. And I don't know that when you get onto the big desktop that those things translate over. And so, I think there's still some catching up to do. The real ideal situation, I think, that what we want is you've got that one single device that I do it all on. It does every single thing for me. That when I want it to be a phone and I don't have a keyboard or whatever, it's that way. And really, if I were blue screening or blue sky or whatever, I would get back to my house where I had more room and I would just magically make it big, and I'd have my virtual type keypad and I'd have my virtual, mouse, and I could use it as a real desktop with the space. More realistically is the idea that our phone will plug into something that lets it then become the processor. I mean, can you imagine if you had your phone and you've got your laptop shell that you take with you, and then when you want to, plug it into the laptop, away you go. I mean, that's possibly something you could do with it as well. But I'll kind of cap off. But the interesting thing is, for me, that used to also be kind of one of the dreams I had. It was like, wow, if only I could carry all my stuff around in one place. But the cloud's kind of changed all that. I don't think, I gotta get all my photos and all. Because I lived in Britain for 12 years, right? And I'd come back to trips to the U.S. and when I started doing that in '97, I just threw them out. I had a whole Spark Q, the old Spark Q things are like the giant zip disk drives with 1 gigabyte of data. And I would spend the night before going out on a trip copying over all the data that I thought I might need because it would take that long to take it with me. Mm-hmm. And then, I'd truck it over, and if I needed a file, I had the file, and thank God I packed it all up. I don't even think about that stuff anymore. It is all in the cloud. If I want it, I pull it down, and I pull it down on whatever device I'm using. So that idea that I got to have that one device that plugs into everything, I do have that one device. It's called the cloud, but there still is that aspect that sometimes if I only have my phone, I wish it could just be more desktop-like. So
Danny,
that probably wasn't really an answer to what you asked, but it was a ramble anyway.
Danny?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in Central Park, which is actually pretty damn remarkable that we can live video broadcast from the middle of a park, and I can watch what people are doing. And there's a girl over there taking a selfie with her cell phone and then playing with it, and there's another person sitting next to me with their phone. And there's over here, there's a lady carrying a phone. We are in such a mobile world, and having this extra speed is going to let software developers play with new kinds of augmented reality, new kinds of video editing apps, new kinds of photo editing apps, and we're already seeing that in this new phone. The kinds of features that are possible, here we go, there you go. The kinds of features that are possible with the faster processors in these things is pretty remarkable,
John Borthwick, you were asking a question?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think that I think that for most people in the world, this is their computer, right? I mean, this is their computing device. This is in the cloud. And so I think that we are, those of us who were still tethered to and have a lot of data and a lot of also just workflows and patterns tethered to the desktop, I think, are now in a minority. And so I think I want to, just a software point here, but I think that there's, the double click action here, right, in iOS 7, where you used to be able to just see the apps at the bottom, but now you get full context. And so that you can actually, swipe through the apps and, figure out the actual work context you're looking at. To me, you're beginning to see the sort of the space between the Finder and the apps dissolve a bit, and you're beginning to see that the apps, it's becoming much, much more fluid to be able to multitask and move between the apps. and work between the apps.
Yeah,
And so
and that only leads to thinking about how you can. I mean, I literally have improved the speed with which I use the various tools on the phone by maybe 20 or 30%, and that's just in an hour of experimentation.
Right. And I think that there's interesting stuff we're going to see there. Look, a very minor point, but there was an app which I use for mail called Mailbox that they included in the settings. They included in the iOS 7 release. There's a URL scheme that you could set your default browser now as Chrome, right? And so that being able to like attach and link the apps to the apps, right? There's a neat app which I use called Drafts that uses a ton of these URL schemes to be able to take data from app to app. I think that we're seeing with iOS 7, there's a set of new apps and new functionalities going to come out. There's the speed matters, but I think the distance between the apps and the OS or the Finder is changing, and I think that it's going to make the kind of interactions that you have and your ability to be able to share across apps more interesting and more meaningful. I think that in the Android world, a lot of that has been possible, and it's much more open to developers to build towards that. But it's almost so open that there's so much functionality around it that it's hard for users to figure out what to do.
John Taschek, what do you think? Do you think I've noticed a couple of things that, for example, the latest version of Chatter that's in the App Store has this bookmark feature, and it seems it's kind of a hidden feature, but if you double click on a post in Chatter, it puts it into the bookmark page, and that's interesting in and of itself. It's a real productivity feature to be able to sort of pee interest up the various things that you're working on or interested in. But what was even more interesting is how it immediately starts to send push notifications that are coming in through email notifications of other people who then comment on that post. So it really accelerates the engagement and the interaction of the technology, and I think that is something that you really can't do on the desktop.
Well, I think you answered all those questions that you asked, Steve.
Well, of course, I'm looking for validation here, not any real ideas.
Okay. Yeah, go.
No, come on. Enterprise applications of this moment in iPhone technology.
Well, here's the advancements in the Apple, just the processing performance, and what they're doing with the slightly flattening of the interface, making it more 2D, as John Borthwick had said, or I think it was John Borthwick. Yeah. That makes it possible to do more business-style applications, which are by nature somewhat more disjointed. With different sign-on methodologies, different types of user interfaces, a lot of customizations on the phone, but meant to be shared because they're supposed to be the same user. You're supposed to access data in the same kind of way. So flattening that interface actually expands the enterprise use cases for Apple. And enterprise is the place where Apple is most commonly used. You don't see a lot of corporate standardization on Android, especially in the U.S. It is there, it's just not a lot of it. So this flattening and the processing performance also sets up for doing things like more memory in the device. What's not exciting at this point for this is that no one's done it yet. It's not built. Nothing. No one's using the M7 for, say, fitness apps or medical EMR type apps. But the fact that it's kind of brilliant. They've have an undercut with people who seem to be in the know, and they're talking about it. And Apple can scan for those ideas and start building up reference designs and reference patterns for them to actually surprise us in 6 months or so.
Okay. Scoble, I can see you but not hear you. No, I can not.
how
There
about
you
now?
go. That's better.
Yeah. Sorry, it's walking around Central Park here in New York.
Okay. So what's the temperature?
It's like 80. It's beautiful. It's stunning.
It's another
It's
Indian global warming summer.
It's well, it's also end of September.
Oh, good point. All right. I want to sort of start to wrap this one up. So let's start with Danny Sullivan, who's just left the building. Oh, there he is.
Sorry, I was trying to talk on my phone. Can you see this?
Is that your new phone?
No, it's like the Samsung Mega. Just to give you a sense. Hold on. It's like, hang on, I have coming back.
This is like a
This is like the
bomber
iPhone, right?
commercial.
It can eat it. It's crazy.
What is the little one?
That's the iPhone 5. So, the iPhone 5S and them is bigger.
Oh,
Anyway, that's, by the way, too big of a phone. That is too big of a phone.
I'm
Anyway,
just not
sorry.
so sure. I'm just not really sure about the idea. I mean, there are a lot of people who agree with you guys about it needs to get bigger. The iOS 7 also takes additional screen space that used to be, I don't know what they did with it, but now it's all, the mail is a lot bigger on the screen, so our web pages. I'm just not so sure that the answer I like my iPad mini. I just want to have a Retina screen for it.
Yeah, that'll come.
Okay. So
Get the Nexus.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Nexus is gorgeous. Taschek's Nexus. Too bad it's not an Apple device.
Why do you need it to be an Apple device? What are you missing?
All the things that we're talking about. The interesting thing from last week's show that we talked about, the idea that, which was roundly poo-pooed, that Apple would, AirPlay would probably move more toward the Chromecast model. This week it appears that was somewhat prescient by about
But what are
10
you
minutes.
what are you doing with the Mini that you couldn't do on the Nexus?
I was getting to that. There's
Oh,
the
sorry.
idea of streaming. I don't want to buy from Google Play. I don't even know what Google Play is.
Well, why? It's the same price, same content.
Well, I right now I'm more excited about Amazon's auto rip technology, which in my case means that not only was I able to auto rip the music, but then because somebody stole the actual package off of my front door stoop, I now have been auto ripped of the actual product. So I'm happier with
Steve?
Amazon now.
Steve, that's a real interesting point you made there, that you don't know what Google Play is, because there's 8 out of 10 smartphone users probably feel the opposite. They don't know what iTunes is or Apple services. They've gotten used to the Google ecosystem and they're happy there.
Really?
Now, yeah, actually, most people are when you talk to them about Android. They don't see a reason. If they saw a reason, they would have been buying iPhones already, right? So there's 8 out of 10 users who are on the Android
I think a
side
lot of
things.
Android users buy Androids because the store where they bought it or the carrier where they bought the phone from is pushing them because they're a lot better for their bottom line than
Well, it's got all the
somebody's
web.
Apple.
It's got web. It's it's synchronized across every device. It's pretty nice. I mean, no matter how many Android devices you have, Nexus.
I can't hear you. I think that somewhere Apple is blocking your audio.
Well, iTunes has not advanced as much as the hardware, I'd say, in this era. And Play.
I think
accessible.
I think we're all overthinking this because, you're right in a bit that the carriers matter a lot and what they're pushing matters a lot to a lot of people. But most people aren't like the Gillmor Gang. They don't care. They
No, the
really
Gillmor
don't
Gang
care.
doesn't agree with me, so I don't know what you're talking
Well, no,
about.
I think there's different points of view out there.
Well, no, I mean,
and
I
there's-
think Steve, you're a very good point of view of somebody who has an Apple device, likes the Apple device, and doesn't see any reason to change, and that's ideal for Apple. It's ideal for anybody who's in that ecosystem.
Well, it's not
and
just
you are
the-
you're unlikely to change unless there's some compelling reason to make you do it. It's like it's like I talk about Google being like cigarettes, only cigarettes that don't kill you, and people are always like, "Well, why won't people leave Google?" It's like, why would you leave Google for searching? It's helping you find stuff. Why would you leave it? So why would you leave iOS? There's no particular reason. But if you were somebody who had a friend who had a larger screen, and you looked at that screen, you said, "Wow, I really like having a big screen." That might be one of the things that kicks you over. Or if you were somebody who broke their phone and you're like, "Oh, I got to buy a new one and I don't have the insurance and everything else, but I can get the Nexus 4 for $300, you might go, I'll do that. Or if the carrier is offering you the free Android phone compared to the iPhone that's going to cost you $200, that might be one of the things that kicks you over. And then once you're in the Android ecosystem, you might as well be in the Apple ecosystem. They're virtually the same. There's very, very little stuff that you're not going to get. One of them is this. That's Clash of Clans, which I'm addicted to. That's why it's on. I can't play that on an Android device. It's only for iOS. And there are a few things that are
Android
like that.
tablets is like a minority market. It's just it's nowhere.
Well, they're further behind, but,
They're further behind, and the ecosystem never kicked over, and they never had a lever to get people off of iPads.
Exactly.
Other than price, and that price isn't that big a deal when an iPad Mini is $329.
So
you're gonna save $100. It doesn't matter to most people. Now the carrier thing does matter. If you want to be on a XYZ carrier and you don't have the money, it's different, right?
Well, I mean, look, there's definitely price reasons why people are moving to Android and away from the the initial Apple market. But as John Borthwick pointed out, I think if you look at what's going to happen in China, that's probably going to be blunted significantly by the iPhone, the 5C.
Now, what's interesting is most of the people in line were Chinese that were obviously buying 2 iPhones to take back to China, and almost all of them were buying 5Ss. So there's, but the Chinese market is so massive and will suck so many devices into it that I don't know that you can make any rules. Almost nobody bought 5Cs in line today, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I think the 5C was invented in order to promote the 5S. I mean, that's why it's there. It's just you could have this, but it's what a car dealership does. They upsell you, and
it's
this
really
is the upsell.
The only person who bought a 5C in line was a teenager, and the cameras all surrounded him because he was the only one buying it. But he liked the color, and I guarantee you the color is going to be very attractive to the teenage market.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
They don't need the
my
Chinese
daughter.
store.
My daughter looked at me with vaguely concealed contempt when I suggested that maybe she'd be interested in a 5C. It was like, Dad.
Yeah, but did you say that she could have gotten it? Did you say she could have gotten it in pink? Maybe that would have been the clincher.
She's your daughter.
You're going for the stereotypes.
Yeah.
You're young. You must like color. You're a girl. You must like it in pink. Look, and there's stars. Oh, circles.
She hates pink. What can I say? She wants to have a faster phone than I have. Is basically what it's about.
The thing I'm surprised, John, and maybe I missed it when I was cut off. Did John Taschek talk about the enterprise opportunities due to this fingerprint sensor? Because I could see an enterprise like Rackspace buying a whole bunch of iPhones with this fingerprint sensor for safety reasons, because we don't want people to scan into our, to hack into our networks. And if 50% of iPhone users are not using basic security, i.e. a passcode on their lock screen, this is a huge, huge deal, I think. But I'd like to hear John John Taschek.
Yeah, and
about that.
I just have to do one quick check here. John Borthwick, did you just send me a text? Because I heard a text.
I did. I got to go, Steve.
Okay, very good.
I'll
So-
jump off too.
So
Steve.
thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Talk to you soon.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
And who else has to go?
I got to jump off. Very
Okay,
soon.
so let's just wrap this up. Go ahead, Robert. Finish your thought.
No, I finished it. I think the fingerprint sensor is a huge security fix for the enterprise.
John Taschek?
Well, I think I could wrap up with my wrap on that. Fingerprint scanners, fingerprint sensors on the iPhone are going to be great for the enterprise because they'll ensure a certain level of security that was handled by something like ActiveSync or PIN codes or something like that that may not have been that secure. The issue that might block it is how you access the other apps inside, which has always been, that issue doesn't change. And it's also a sort of proprietary nature of the scanner that is not being released to the enterprise that may slow adoption for some, not all. I'm just talking about very conservative companies, the slow adopters, and they'll want to have access into that. Other than that, I think it's it ensures a validation of a person onto the phone, whether the hacks come out or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it ties directly into the credit card and becomes, the wallet device that really breaks that through in this country like it has been in South Korea. Danny Sullivan, last thoughts.
I think that Apple's done a good job of helping ensure that this is another hit. I think they probably had to do a little bit of help to it this time. I think it would have been great and people would have bought it, but for their first day, wow, everybody's all out there. I think they were very, very smart in how they put the stuff all together. But I think it's also interesting how much everything's converging. My son, when he upgraded his iPad and started flipping through the apps, said, "Oh wow, look, they stole it from Windows Phone." Because on Windows Phone, if you're on an app and you slide it, you go to the other app. And I said, "Yeah, which is how it works on Android." And he's like,
Which
everybody just,
Danny was stolen from Palm.
I know, but that's what I would say. He said, "So does everybody just steal from everybody?" I said, "Yes." I said, because you can go back and then you can say, "Well, then Android took this and everybody took that," and it's not even worth kind of. And it was interesting. Nobody really seemed to get into that usual stuff of who stole it from whom or whatever. It's all kind of coming together, and that's kind of nice on the one hand because it becomes easier for you to go between the different things, and it shows that everybody is kind of maturing and whatnot. But it's exciting, and I'll be interested to see if the new iPhone kind of pulls me back in versus say the S4, which I'd been using more. I just really miss not having that big screen, and I feel like in the end, not taking away from all the stuff that they're doing, because the processor is going to have potential to pay off. The fingerprint scanner, I'm sure I'm going to look at it and start thinking, wow, this is just like the Retina screen and all that sort of stuff. That'll be impressive, but I still kind of come away feeling like this was a stopgap year until they can figure out how they change their whole system to support larger screens. Because I think we're going to get next year, and we're going to have the iPhone 6S for small, and the iPhone, well, it won't be an S because they can't use that, but we're going to get the iPhone 6, which will be a bigger screen or multiple screens, and there are things that go on with the developers and whatnot. But it was amazing to me that really in all the reviews I read, nobody talked about screen size, as if I did a joke on Twitter and I said apparently fingerprint scanner is greater than screen size. So we'll see, because I think that has been a driver.
So you're basically saying that screen size matters.
It does matter.
Okay.
It definitely matters to some people.
And on that note,
That's how you use it.
it's not just how you use it, says the producer. Okay. We got to get out of here. I want to thank Rackspace, and particularly Rob Legess, without which we wouldn't be doing this. I want to thank NewTek and their TriCaster for turning it into a video show. I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor. Where's the hand?
I did it.
Oh, okay. Thanks. And I want to thank John Taschek.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Robert Scoble.
See you later.
Something.
Oh, my God.
I'm dizzy. I'm getting dizzy.
I'm getting dizzy.
Danny Sullivan. Thanks, Danny. Happy to be walking in place for you, right? And John Borthwick, who is departed. By the way, I love the look of his new video setup. Thanks to the chat room. Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.